Hi, everyone. Welcome to our final installment of Everyday Reinvention, the power of coaching for ministry change. I'm Charity Sarchenko. I'm the marketing manager here at Vibrant Faith, and I'm here with Jim Ledoux, who is the director of coaching and coaching services. And today for our final video, we're going to talk about a few of our most frequently asked questions that we get from clients before they become our coaching clients. And so, Jim, one of the first questions people ask are, what are the indications of a thriving team?
So often we lift up what we call the 5 C's of a thriving team.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is really about clarity. Does the team understand what's our primary charge? What are we hoping to accomplish in this task? And then for team members, the big question is, what's my role, my individual role, and what's my role as a group member? So always clarity of role is important.
Yeah.
And then what are my expectations? What's appropriate, what's not? How do I best contribute to my time and energy to this cause? And so clarity about expectations and norms for the group is really important.
Yeah.
And then is, I'd say, competence. You know, so often we're inviting a team member because they have the gift of organization, or they're a creative dreamer, or they have lots of connections in the local community. So one of the questions we often ask is, what's your superpower? How do we make sure as part of this team that we tap that superpower and use your gifts in a way that helps build up the work of this team?
Yeah.
So we always want to build on the strengths, and we want to know those and celebrate those and make sure we honor them. The next one I would call just a character. Do we have people, obviously in our setting, we're looking for people that look through the lens of what does it mean to follow Jesus? So sometimes it's a Christian perspective, but part of that character is, do I trust this person? Do they have my back?
Yeah.
Are they here to build up the body of Christ, or are they going to be gossiping about one another outside of this? Because that's just such a critical piece.
Yeah.
Do they bring a sense of hopefulness? Not everyone is a team player. They do work better individually rather than part of a team. So we look at that element. And then I think, and even negativity, because really when teams gather, they're charged with creating something that's positive, proactive, a preferred future. And it doesn't help to talk about what we can't do. Really, teams are designed to look at what can we do to move things forward. So that's part of that character piece. It's really kind of our attitude, our mindset, and what we bring to the table.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think, a sense of chemistry. And it's just, do you enjoy the people you're with? Do you interact? Is there laughter? Is there, because I believe you can be purposeful as well as playful.
Yes.
And again, going back to that aspect of being a team player, but hopeful. And I'd even lift up this word of being curious. I really, with the chemistry and teams moving forward, they have to be curious about each other, have to be curious about the charge, and be curious about what their next steps might be.
Yeah.
And the last one I lift up is just the collaborative piece. So often we get siloed into just our individual responsibilities. And thriving teams have people that not only take ownership for their individual contributions, but they're also thinking, what are my other teammates doing? And how can I support them and encourage them in their next steps, in addition to what they're doing? So there's that broader perspective, seeking to support the whole, not just the individual. So those are the 5 we lift up.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And what tips do you offer to leaders, or what tips can you offer leaders right now to become more nimble and adaptive? We've had a time of change, and where the tectonic plates, as we like to talk about at Vibrant Faith, have been shifting. It's hard to find firm ground. The ability to become agile and adaptive is really important. So how can leaders develop that? What are things that they need to be able to do in order to become a nimble and adaptive leader?
Actually, one of the most recent learnings is that we actually have to help people create margins, create space to do creative work, but also reflective work. Because so often what happens, especially those in congregations, they're so busy planning and promoting one activity, and then they go on to the next one. They never have a chance to actually reflect on what they just did.
Yeah.
This worked. Did we achieve the outcomes we hoped for? Would we do this differently in the future if we did it again? Should we even do it again?
Yeah.
Those kind of questions. So part of being nimble and adaptive is creating the space to be reflective and to review your results, and then to rethink them and say, what could we do differently if we wanted to do it again?
Yeah.
It also requires a mindset of being proactive. we charge elected leaders in particular saying, so often your meetings, you're only talking about the next 30 to 60 days. In that type of elected role, you really need to be thinking 1 to 3 years out. Where's God leading us in the process? What do we want to celebrate by the end of the year? What do we want to celebrate 3 years from now? How will our congregation be different? So there has to be an intentional process for being more future oriented and thinking, peering a little further into the future there and what that might mean for our congregation.
Yeah.
And asking that question about what does it mean? New technology, COVID, all those things change that. And so often we don't ask, how will that impact for good or bad our organization or our mission? And how do we begin to prepare for it now rather than later?
Yeah.
So it really takes that proactive response.
Yeah, I really like that answer. And what resonated with me was really thinking 1 to 3 years out. I think that during the pandemic, maybe pre-pandemic, we would have thought 1 to 3 year out. 5-year plans were a big deal. And then during the pandemic, it suddenly became, are we going to be here next week?
Yeah.
Can we think beyond today? And so how it takes, I find, and this is true of when I worked at a church, and now even at Vibrant Faith, I'm learning to expand those horizons again. Where do I want to be in this time frame, especially in my work at Vibrant Faith? But I find now in this new season of pandemic, endemic, whatever we're living in life, like what is that? How do you build endurance to move back toward thinking in those long-term ranges?
Yeah. I think there's a couple other pieces that bubble up too, if you're seeking to be nimble and adaptive. And one is we're so used to as leaders that we're always talking, we're always informing, and certainly want good communication. But part of communication is actually listening well, listening deeply. And I think so often if we're going to be adaptive, we need to think about whose voice is not at the table that we need to hear.
Yeah. Who
else could be a source of wisdom? And so I think there's a stance that we need to listen more and talk less. And that allows us also, if we're going to be nimble and adaptive, to try to see things from other people's point of view and to see both our emerging opportunities as well as our challenges from new angles of vision.
No, that's really good. I like that response. That does help build endurance and build the ability to think beyond our own perspective. I like that. I'm wondering if, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just offer one other thing too. I think in that, as we do this listening, this also means, hey, we come up with some good ideas. We also need to be willing to try small experiments.
Yes.
Pilot things that say, this might be a way forward. Let's just check it out, do it for 3 months, see what we learn. But I think if you're going to be nimble and adaptive, you have to be willing to pilot and experiment and risk failure. Because the only way you're going to succeed long-term is if you're willing to take some risks at this point.
Yeah. I think that's really good. That is a good word. What are the benefits? Another question we get is, what are the benefits of a coach? Why would I want a coach? Or how can I tell I need a coach? That's probably a better way to ask that question.
Well, here would be a few just things that I would lift up. I think, first of all, that a coach creates a safe space. And really, we often think it's a sacred and holy space for real and relevant and pressing issues in people's lives and their ministries, which means then you can talk about the things that really matter. And it leads to people being a little more vulnerable or saying, I'm not sure it's working. But is there safe space actually to have really crucial, constructive, consequential conversations? And coaching provides that. I also think that the element that you have a dialogue partner that just helps you move forward. And sometimes just helping people verbalize what they're thinking and imagining helps create some new awareness and some new action. We've already talked a little bit about the sense of clarity about your current reality, clarity about the assumptions you hold, clarity about your next steps. That can be really crucial. We've talked about the accountability pieces as also, who's going to hold us accountable? So it just doesn't become one of those great ideas that we never implement. But, okay, great. What's the next step? And the last thing I just lift up is just simply where coaching really makes the difference is we challenge people between sessions. What do you want to be different between now and the next session or within the next 30 days? So there's intent, and that's really where the transformation shows up. It's actually between the sessions of what the client actually does based on the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually leads me to my next and last question is, what does ministry change and transformation look like during a coaching relationship or after a coaching relationship ends?
Yeah. And maybe even think about this beyond just a coaching relationship,
Yeah.
but ways that we measure this. And I usually will track some of these things working with clients, but I'm looking for how have their assumptions changed about life, about themselves, about the people they work with, about their ministry. How has that changed? Because so often we are held hostage by assumptions that no longer serve us or our organizations.
Yes.
So I'm changes in assumptions. I'm also looking for changes in I would say, attitude. Sometimes people come and they're really depressed and they're, kind of, I just don't know where to go. I think coaching has the capacity for people to see new ways of moving forward. So they're more hopeful, they're more confident, and as a result, they take some positive, proactive steps moving forward.
Yeah.
I see changes also in approaches. Again, we've always done it this way. So often when an activity or a program fails, sometimes it wasn't the right thing because we didn't listen well enough, but a lot of times it's because, well, we didn't get the promotion out there in time. We got the wrong people in charge of it. We, scheduled the wrong time. So there has to be, that we're rethinking our approaches and trying reconfiguring things, which is really critical.
Yeah.
And then it's changes in action. Because we usually work with clients and we create a celebrations log. What are all the actions you took that led to a different result?
Yeah.
And that's exciting to see after 30 to 90 days, just how much it's actually changing in their life, their ministry based on their actions.
Yeah. I really like that celebration log idea. I think that's a really great, simple thing to do to track transformation.
Yeah. And the last piece we just talked about, you're not coaching if there's no transformation. Because coaching is more than just being a dialogue partner. It's being a dialogue partner that's going to help you chart a new course and find tangible ways to move forward. So that's a real critical element. We're not doing our job if things in your life and your ministries are not changing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really key. I think that's great. That's great. Jim, it's really been a pleasure to have this series of conversations with you about coaching and ministry change. And if you would like to learn more about ministry reinvention, we invite you to look at the links below. And one thing we'd like to do is really ask you to think about what it would be like to learn coaching skills, to move your ministry forward using coaching skills for your paid and volunteer leaders. And so if you're interested in that, we'd love for you to check out our one-day intensive that's coming up this fall, where we go through for a day and we talk about what coaching is and how to develop those skills that can really impact your ministry leadership and the people you're serving with every week. And so we'd love for you to sign up for learning more. You can contact Jim at the link below. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to working with you. Bye.
Yep.